The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Friday in the Red.
And I want to welcome our Facebook viewers. Today we are not only live on YouTube, we are live on Facebook. So
yeah, I don't know if that was publicized. So we don't know how many there are out there. But if you're out there, hello. And Facebook, of course, the bastion of all kinds of controversy.
Right,
so.
There's no guarantee we're going to be doing this regularly, but at least for today,
Yeah.
we're helping the studio out to test the equipment that they have because there was some problems with the equipment during the election. So we want to make sure everything works fine for everybody. So welcome, Facebook.
Welcome. And let's see what we have here. Well, I guess the mayor's, the Fed subpoenaed 4 Bristol County communities, and Fall River is one of them. And as we said on the last show, we were probably the catalyst that everybody else subpoenaed because of all the shenanigans that went on with the granting of letters of non-opposition. And after that, I guess it's hit the paper, it's hit the radio station, and we didn't have a show till now, so we can't talk about it. I guess Mayor-elect Paul Coogan, the headline is vows to restore faith in Fall River government. And he had a meeting apparently with Mary Sahadi and
Joe Macy.
And so the discussions were, I guess, and other. It said other. It didn't really say.
It doesn't say which department heads.
Yeah, which department heads. But I know that there were people.
And acting Mayor Cliff Ponte was there as well.
There were people missing at the healthcare meeting that I went to yesterday. So from the government, actually the entire government was missing, except for one of the individuals who does just does the numbers for the healthcare. But yeah, we see that, and the other headline is off and running in transition. And look, all these things are now speculative. We have another article here that said election night shows Fall River good old boy system still alive and well, which every time I see something like this, it drives me bonkers because, listen, you know, that's just another political con from a political con artist because, look, good old boys, good new boys, that's not, the point isn't that. It's the system, the old boy system. Whether they're old boys or new boys, we're not talking about age. And realistically, what are we going to call Jazel's people that have just been outed?
Corrupt.
Medium old boys? Because he's been in for 5 years.
Yeah.
So they were only good new boys the first term. And that's the problem. That's not the point. The point is if you move one regime that doesn't serve the people out and put another one in, what difference does it make whether they've only been doing it for 2 years, 5 years, or 12 years? That's the point we try to make on this show all the time. That it's up to us to vote the government that we want. And if anybody is creating a good old boys network and has gross patronage and ridiculous pay raises for their friends and people that are unqualified getting jobs, obviously it's incumbent upon us to vote them out. So, you know, that article, you know, it's just, and I know that's been flying around for a while. That was virtually the day after
Yes, it was.
the election. So,
But there's some validity.
It's like the never Trump. You get elected, who cares? So now they're going to whine about this election and point all the fingers at everything he does. And you know something? I don't care because if he did something wrong, we're going to point the same finger.
That's right.
But the point is, don't try to use it as a justification. You should have kept the other regime in. The point is that it's up to the voters to stop this, to show that anybody that gets in and doesn't run government for the good of the people is gone after one term.
Well, what's interesting is, to give some validity to that article, but not what they were talking about for validity, where they were talking about the election commission and the elections votes being given out the way they were given out. You start looking, and right now you have Ann O'Neill following Paul Coogan around. She was his campaign manager. Now, odds are, based upon the fact that she's attending every meeting and going everywhere with them, she'll be named this chief of staff. Not like we need a chief of staff.
Right.
Okay? Which takes us back to the good old boy network of the Flanagan administration.
No, actually, to be, because we're going to get called on it, the accuracy. The chief of staff position was created under the Lammett administration.
Right.
And that was to give his secretary a gigantic pay raise.
Right.
It's like giving the janitor the new title of sanitary engineer and giving him a $50,000 pay raise, because there were controversies. And I see that's one of the problems that people have with me. I have a very good memory. And there were issues with her also getting a salary from CD Rec. They were siphoning money from other places besides the city to supplement her pay, in addition to getting a pay as chief of staff. That position is a glorified secretary's position. It always has been. It always will be. It's not necessary. And all it is a label affixed to somebody to give them more money. Sanitary engineer, janitor. It doesn't make any difference, but that's the whole point. The whole point is government is a rigged job. This guy can complain about the board, all the boards. Who appoints the boards? The politicians. We can't control who they appoint, except if we vote them out. Once you show a politician that they're only going to get one term unless they do the people's business, and that the people's business has a priority over patronage and personal business, they're going to continue to do it. So, this is like complaining about, they spent 3 years trying to get Trump out after he was duly elected. He's got, he's done 75% of his term, basically. So, and it's still going, and they're trying to affect it. And politics is politics, and if you look at the federal level, even the rules they operate on are not the rules we do. You can legally lie as a congressman or a senator at a hearing. You can manipulate fact, you can lie, you can shut off debate, you can stop the other person from even answering.
Or asking a question.
It's definitely not the Nuremberg trials. It's definitely like, it's more like a Nazi court. But the fact is they control all the rules, and they will continue to control all the rules until we show them that if they don't do it right, it's one and done.
And that's, in Fall River, that's a hard thing to accomplish, because give him a chow mein sandwich and you see Leo Pelletier was elected again. And I asked a few people why they voted for Leo when they told me they did, and they said it's for comedy. It's for the comedy effect. He's good for laughs. Well, there you go. That's why Fall River's in the hole that it's in. But what I was talking about with Ann O'Neill was she was a chief of staff under Will Flanagan.
Well, Okay.
So
because they'll try to say the way you worded it, though, CJ, it looked like that was where it began.
No, that's
we
not
just
where it
want to
began.
clarify.
Yeah.
We know where this position began.
Exactly. But the thing is that what was the big complaint as Paul was running for office was that he was going to bring back the old people. Well, if he brings back Ann O'Neill as the chief of staff, if he even brings in a chief of staff, let's put it that way. If he even brings in a chief of staff, you've got a problem, because it's a position that's not necessary. Carlton Viveris ran this city quite well without a chief of staff.
When we had a lot more people in every department, we had a 300-man fire department. We had a nearly 300-man police department. The school population was much larger than it is today. All the departments, DPW had their own snow removal trucks. These departments were double and triple, in some cases, the size that they are now. And what happened then? Department heads ran their departments, and Carlton ran the city. We didn't need chiefs of staffs, city administrators, personnel directors. You know, the department heads did what their six-figure salary is there for. They ran their own departments. And realistically, people don't understand that you do not have to micromanage a city like this. It's like the military. Do you think the general goes into barracks and makes sure that the floors are washed and buffed? No. You've got group commanders, company commanders, battalion, platoon sergeants. You know, we have departments. Every city employee works within a department. And that department not only has supervisors, it has department heads. And those department heads are commissioned to run that department. And if you hold the department heads answerable, the city runs itself. Carlton Viveris proved that. Carlton Viveris managed to run this city when we had more than double the number of city employees that we have now, with a secretary. Actually, he had two, I think, because when one was out, he always had a secretary in the main lobby. Two secretaries. Now we got two secretaries, a chief of staff, a city administrator.
A special assistant.
You know, I mean, you know, it's just like the school department, deans of students, vice principals, assistant to the vice principal, assistant to the principal. You know, this is government at its worst. Spending your money, and the terms of yesteryear, like lean government, do more with less, those are gone. And actually, they're considered expletives now. It's like you're saying a bad word if you tell government to control its spending. Oh, no, it's our obligation to keep spending your money. They don't spend their money that way. So, you know, we get back to the core issue that we always talk about. It's the voters' fault. You complain about good old boys, new old boys. It doesn't matter. And as you said before, CJ, he brought in some old people. Well, who the hell are you? Who have you got to? What is the pool you have to bring these people in? I mean, you know, on the other side they say, well, Ann O'Neill Sousa's got experience. She was a chief of staff, but experience at what? Doing a job that we shouldn't have. But then you're going to bring in somebody new, and look at the luck we've had so far with the new people. We had an ice house guard in charge of DCM. How long did he last?
5 days, I think.
5 days? We had 2 or 3 department heads in DCM.
A couple only lasted a couple of days.
New people, all new people.
Right.
Now, if you look at the people in the other departments that haven't been replaced, they've been in those departments for a while. So, look, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You bring in a new guy, they're going to go, why the hell did you hire him? This guy doesn't have any experience. And if you do hire somebody with experience, because I've seen it, then they're going to complain because they're from out of town. Right? Why'd you hire him? Why didn't you hire somebody from Fall River? Well, if I hire somebody from Fall River, you're going to say they're part of the good old boy network. They're going to be part of somebody's network. This isn't a job like fire and police where you actually have to take a test, be placed on a list by Mark, and then get high enough on that list to be the top 3 to be considered for the position. All the rest of the jobs in this city fundamentally are political. So let's grasp a little bit of the straw of reality, because that's the reality. And the only way we can control how much patronage and how much these politicians pay attention to people's credentials and qualifications to do the job is by one and done. You don't do the job, you're gone. And that's all we can do. And Paul is hitting the ground running, and as all mayors do. But you know, as a friend of mine said about Kathy Ann's run, write-in run, You can't start a race at the finish line. Because you're running doesn't mean you're anywhere near the finish line. We have to, we have to give everybody who's elected the benefit of the doubt. Whether you supported them or didn't support them, you have to give them the benefit of the doubt. The proof will be in how the city is run. You got to give them a reasonable chance to see if this city is changing direction, to see if the campaign promises are upheld. Is there going to be somebody that he appoints that's going to be controversial? Of course. Can that person do the job? Yeah. Well, we had Bob Connors come in from New York to be a city administrator. We had Jim Smith come in from, I don't know where, someplace in Massachusetts, but I think he had been a city administrator somewhere else. We had a few city administrators from outside the city, and we've had a few from within the city. So,
but the difference is, those city administrators, unlike the one we currently have, all right?
they weren't mall managers.
Well, not only weren't they mall managers, but they answered the questions. If the city council said, how much money is left in XYZ account, they said it right to the penny. They didn't say, I'll have to get back to you with that.
You're right. And it was a bygone era, because those city administrators were commissioned by the mayors, the then mayors, to hold the department heads accountable and ask the questions. And when Bob Connors went in front of the city council, except the one time when we sued the city and they didn't want to admit that they mishandled the money, that was the only council meeting he didn't show up when we made the presentation to the city council, because he knew we had him and he couldn't refute the figures. But the fact is that if you asked him about anything that we asked this one, is because now the city administrator's position has evolved into somebody who obstructs the process, who misrepresents figures, and who justifies everything a mayor does, whether it's right or wrong. And that's not the old way, because I can tell you, and I have witnesses, I sat in a negotiation with Bob Connors, and we were disagreeing with an interpretation that the fire chief at the time was making. And Connors worked for the city, and of course the department head, well, you'd figure they'd favor the department head. But Bob Connors was labor before he became management. He understood that we were right, and he told them he just told them, they're right, they're gonna get that demand because they're right. And that's why we had a different atmosphere. The city, as you said, when somebody went in front of the city council, they had the answers. You may not like the answers you got, but you got answers. It's like the old days when they had contract departments. When remember Frank Manning from DPW?
Yep.
I remember the time he went in front of the city council and said, "You got to give me more money," and they said, "No, we're not going to give you any more money." And then he they had some snow. He told them why he ran out of money, and he said, "Okay, if you don't give me the money, I'm shutting this down and that down 3 days a week." And they all went, "You can't do that." And he said, "Well, I can't run a department unless you give me more money." But they didn't like the answer, but they had answers. There was did he budget enough? Yeah, there were some unforeseen issues. But that was the time when you went up there, and if you didn't give an answer, you were in trouble. If you got a department head in front of the city council that didn't have an answer, they were in deep doo-doo. If the city administrator, Bob Connors, or Jim Smith, or Alan Silva, went in front of that council, you're almost sorry you asked the question, because they'd give you so many numbers, your head'd be swimming, especially Alan. I mean, Alan had he'd go over the entire city budget at a council meeting, every line, and he'd justify everything. And people don't want that anymore. Government has evolved into basically a good old boy network from the top. We haven't had a mayor in a long time that wasn't taking care of their friends first and worried about the city later. And I know that everybody was saying, Will Flanagan had a shot if he ran. Well, I guess everybody forgot why he got recalled. We had an $8 million deficit under his stewardship as mayor. He didn't prepare for the closing of the landfill, which everybody in the city knew except Will Flanagan. He didn't prepare for the uptick in funds that was going to be there because of contracts he negotiated and co-signed that the city had, and a whole litany of other things. The landfill, the airport, all these things were not prepared for. He was an abysmal mayor. Nice guy, personality-wise. Now it's amazing how people forget. They were touting him as a strong candidate for mayor, and apparently forgetting the War and Peace-sized dossier we had called Flanagan Shenanigans when he got recalled. And this is the problem. Most voters don't pay attention, and they've got the attention span of a gnat.
And they get the abridged version.
Yeah.
And their memory is short.
And they accept that. Why wasn't the city council chamber full of people with pitchforks and torches for the last couple of years when every answer was, oh, I don't have those figures right now, but I'll get them. And they never got. Did they? No, they never did. And when they did, they changed. Did anybody ever hold them accountable when Kathy Ann went up there and absolutely misrepresented her figures? Did anybody hold the Flanagan Corporation Council office? Did they hold their feet to the fire with the 22 windows? Did they hold their feet to the fire when they swore up and down to the council that we were going to win the Dominion suit? And we didn't. And we paid not only them, but an outside agency to litigate that.
Right.
So you're a taxpayer, you're a voter. If you don't pay attention, it's really your fault. Not that you can do anything about what they do today, but every 2 years at the polls, which is, by the way, why I'm in favor of two-year elections. I am adamantly opposed to FOA. As a matter of fact, if I had my way, we'd have an election every year, because do you notice how well the city gets maintained in an election year? So your streets would get done, and they'd be very sensitive to what you want. But that's the reality. The reality is, look, this is all, everything's conjecture, and we're going to see a lull now because we don't have lame ducks anymore. We've got dead ducks. They've been shot out of the sky. And now what we have to do is wait to see if the city changes course, because it really does need a course change. And he said he is going to change the course, and hopefully he will. But I don't want to hear good old boy. Every time I see good old boy, I go, my head flies off. That's why I have no hair. People kept saying good old boy, and I lost all my hair.
But again, you know, because the voter has such a short memory span, I mean, for you and I, our memories run long and deep. We don't forget things. But most voters in the city can't remember what happened 2 weeks ago. I mean, you look at what's coming up on the city council agenda for next Tuesday, guess what? There's nothing there. There's really nothing there that's happening.
Yeah. And
it makes me laugh. You know, I love it when they say public hearing for, you know, curb removal. The person who's requesting the curb removal doesn't even show up. You know what I would say if I was in the city council? No, I deny it. No. Because if you don't have the fortitude to show up and make that request in person, why should you have it? Why? Because we're running a government that doesn't care. Okay, just give it to him, just give it to him, just give it to him. No, that's not how it works. And I love it when they say has little impact on parking. It has an impact on parking. If you say little impact, it has an impact on parking. And these are things that government forgets. I know you're supposed to represent the people, but that doesn't mean that special friends get special gifts or special jobs. My personal opinion is when Cliff Ponte took office as the acting mayor, the first thing he should have done was terminate Monica Souza. That's a do-nothing, go-nowhere job that is just there to make some money for her and to give her a paycheck. That's it. That would have been one of the first positions I got rid of, right off the bat, because it's not necessary. And I'm not saying this because I have a problem with Monica or anything. I have a problem with the job. I have a problem with that job. All she does is she schedules food truck festivals. That's it. We're paying her, what, $60,000 a year to schedule food truck festivals?
And you're right, CJ. It's not that. It's about the job. We don't need tiers and tiers of spending for unnecessary jobs. The government's job is to provide us with public safety, with education, with clean streets, the essential services. They're not here as an employment agency. We don't need assistance to the assistants to the assistants, but nobody cares because it's not their money. As I said, that's the whole problem. Milton Friedman, if you give them the Sahara Desert, they'll run out of sand. You remember it's already been a number of years now, but at the budget hearing, they reduced the firefighter complement by 5 firefighters, but they increased the officer complement by a like number. Why would you do that? You need more chiefs than Indians? You need more supervisors for less men? You'd have to justify that to me, but not one city councilor said a damn thing. A councilor never questions what should be on the agenda. Like, as I said, violations, they're the legislative branch. They make the laws, and they're also there to enforce them, our ordinances. We've said it time and time again. Steve Camara filed fraudulent nomination papers. He lived in Westport. His driver's license said Westport. His auto insurance was in Westport.
His registration was in Westport.
His registration was in Westport.
His Homestead Act was in Westport.
His Homestead Act was checked off as Westport as his primary residence. Did anybody remove him from his seat? Brad Kilby questioned whether the mayor should be paid. The mayor's being paid even though the Massachusetts statute clearly states that when a public official takes a leave of absence, it's unpaid. But the politicians are allowing the politicians to be paid.
But now that's Cliff Ponte's fault.
You can't take care of your own. You can't say we're going to have an honest, transparent, and fair government when you're not cleaning your own house up.
And you're right. And when you're looking at these things, I've got to blame Cliff Ponte for not looking into giving Jazel Correa his salary still. He didn't do it. He hasn't done it. Brad Kilby's the only one that called it out. Pamela Liberté LeBeau, the acting president of the city council, she did nothing about it, about Steve Camara's, fraudulent filings. Why wasn't something done there? Why is it that we, the people, have to keep screaming about it, and then they turn around and they go, la, 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 I hear nothing?
Yeah, well, they're going to say, oh, well, it'll be a big problem. No, it is a big problem. Do we need an audit? Yeah. Do we need to clean our own house? Yeah. How can you trust politicians to do the right thing for you and treat you fairly when they allow somebody to be there when they know what the statute says? They have been told what the statute says. And they will not enforce it. They will not enforce it. You can't clean your own house up. So,
well, thank you all for watching. Remember, we will not have a show on Monday. It's Veterans Day.
That's right.
Go out, remember a veteran, and enjoy the city celebrations. They're having a Veterans Day parade and some food and time at Government Center.
And to all my brothers and sisters in uniform, all those who served, especially those who made the ultimate sacrifice, and those who lost parts of their body and some of their mind defending this country and our right to do what we do, take a moment on Monday and look at us at Veterans Day for a veteran, not as a day off.